Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to give it just a minute or two to let folks join the session. As we all know, many people are jumping from one meeting to the next, so we'll just hold tight for a minute. I continue to see the attendance poll. Let's see, we've got more folks joining. Nice to see that rising. Again, we'll give it just another minute so that people can join. Couple more folks. Okay, seems pretty steady state. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let me welcome you. Thank you so much for joining. Today, I'm An Schommer, Chief Product Officer at Billtrust, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar. Your ERP isn't broken, it's just not built for accounts receivable. A little bit about me. I've been in software and payments for more than 25 years, largely focused on products or solutions in the office of the CFO space. I've been both head of product at an ERP company, so I know what it's like managing the core processes within an ERP, as well as such as with Billtrust, where you complement and extend the capabilities native within an ERP. So love this topic. Lots of good data to get into. Before we get into the data, a couple housekeeping items. So first of all, today's session is getting recorded and you will get a copy of the seminar, of the webinar. We would love for you to ask questions as well throughout. So if you have questions, we'll have time at the end, hopefully, but also you can feel free to use that little Q&A button and share your questions with us as we go along. So those are the housekeeping items for today. Let me also give a big warm welcome to Tom Fitzgerald. We're so thankful for our research partners at Vanson Bourne. It's really because of their hard work and this rigorous research that they've done and how they've applied their expertise that we have really good nuggets of information to discuss with you today. So, Tom, welcome to the webinar, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the study?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I'm Tom. I'm an Associate Director here at Vanson Bourne. For those of you who don't know Vanson Bourne, we're a market research agency based in the UK. And for over 25 years now, we've specialized in B2B tech research. So this is really our sort of area of expertise. And for this specific project, we partnered with Billtrust to explore the world of AR, conducted a comprehensive piece of research to understand more about finance leaders' views on ERP systems, AI, some of the challenges and opportunities in this space. And I'm really looking forward to sharing the results with you today. We've got some really exciting topic areas and data to cover, so looking forward to getting into it all. Before we get into the findings and the data, I just wanted to briefly explain who we spoke to and how the research was conducted so that you've got the context around the data you're going to see. So we surveyed 500 finance leaders based in the US in November and December of last year. All of them were involved in or responsible for the accounts receivable processes for within their organization. All of them were from organizations with global annual revenues between 10 million and 5 billion US dollars. The majority of them coming from organizations with revenues of over 100 million. And we spoke to people from a range of private sectors, including transport, retail, manufacturing, among others. So with that context in mind, just let me outline how we'll walk through the findings today. So there are going to be 4 sections. In each case, I'll talk through some of the results and data that we got from our research. And then Leanne will add her expertise and experience in this area. So firstly, we'll explore the benefits of third-party AR software. Then we'll look at some of the challenges that finance leaders are experiencing when they're using ERP systems alone, and ask the question around why some of them are still doing that. And we'll finish by exploring what the future of AR may look like and the role that AI could play within that. So lots to get our teeth into, some really interesting topic areas to cover. But just before we get into the data, we'd like to start by asking all of you, the audience, a question. So one of the first questions we asked of our respondents is what their organization's approach to AR looks like. And we thought it'd be great to ask the same of all of you, so that perhaps you can see how you relate to the finance leaders that we surveyed as we move through the presentation. So the question that we'd like you to answer is, what approach is your organization currently using to manage AR processes? We've got 4 options there. The ERP only approach, so only use ERP tools, native ERP tools for those AR processes. ERP plus AR software, so augmenting ERP with third-party AR software. Third-party software independent of ERP, or finally an internal or custom-built solution. So hopefully a poll should be now appearing on your screens. We'll just give you a minute or so to answer that question for us, and we can see how the results compare with what we found in our survey. Okay, just last few moments for everyone to provide their answer. Okay, maybe if we leave it there. And Leanne, can you see some of those results coming through?
I can. I would say that we've got a good mix. It's mainly A and B, and a little bit heavier on the ERP and AR software, as the two working in joint partnership, which is pretty much what we see as well. I think the idea of internal custom-built solution is largely not selected. You know, people need the ERP to run the basics and be the system of record. And so great to see that over half are using ERP and AR software together.
Yeah, that's very similar to what we found in the research as well. So we actually had a slightly more granular breakdown of this in the survey that we ran. So we asked this question for different AR processes. So which method they used for invoicing, payments, collections, cash applications, etc., etc. So we broke out those different processes within AR. And at an overall level, we found exactly what we're seeing here today, that most falling into to A or B. But we did see some differences actually between the approach that finance teams are using for different processes. So, for example, we saw that for invoicing, 74% were using an ERP system only. Whereas for processes such as collections or dispute and deductions management, over half are using third-party AR software, so either independent of their ERP system or alongside it. So I think we're seeing similar results to what we're seeing from our audience today, but just interesting to see some of those differences play out within our survey data as to the different approaches for different processes. Okay, so I think that leads us nicely on to our first section, which explores a bit more around the benefits of using third-party software. Start by looking specifically at organizations that have augmented their ERP with third-party AR software. And when we do that, we see a measurable working capital impact. So on average, those finance leaders, finance teams who have already augmented their ERP are reporting a 23% reduction in days sales outstanding and a 25% reduction in days to pay since they've introduced the third-party software. So I think what's really important here is that these improvements are being achieved not by replacing the ERP, but by extending it. And those finance teams who have augmented ERP with third party are seeing those measurable improvements in speed of cash flow within their organization. Leanne, I wonder if you can perhaps tell us a bit more about how AR software can help in these areas around DSO and DTP.
Sure. There's a lot of different levers a finance team member can pull in order to improve their DSO or days to pay. We typically see a combination of plays, but first and foremost, they really start with get the invoices to the customers as fast as possible and get them accurate. So that alone, if you can just automate the delivery of the invoicing and have it get to the customers, the right person that's going to pay, so that gets into data quality. It's amazing how much that helps kick you off on the right start. And it ties to the last poll question of, what solutions are you using? So typically a combination and a clear focus on invoicing and payments. So you start there, and then second is if you can use an AR solution that will give you visibility to what's happening in any step of the credit to cash process, that visibility into the customer's payment behavior, what modality do they prefer if you offer, do you want ACH, do you want card? Some people even still like print, but how does a customer prefer to pay and when? So if you can also identify when somebody is most likely to pay and meet them based on that behavior, it really improves the relationship that you have with your customer. So if you can deliver the invoices, you can get it to them in the right person, you get it to them in the form that they most respond to, it not only helps you get paid faster, but it automates things downstream in the whole accounts receivable process. So you've got two really good stats here. I'd say another thing that I would add is we see that when customers of Billtrust use us for not only invoicing and payments, but then they just start their expansion by adding in collections, we see an additional 34% reduction in days to pay. So it has a compounding or better together capability as you start to kind of build on that whole automation story. So lots of people live and die by these metrics. I've pulled a number of CFO and accounting leaders and said, is there anything else? And these are, while they may have other OKRs, these are the ones that they live and die by.
Absolutely. Yeah, and within the data, again, we did see some of those improvements in cash flow in other ways as well. So 95% of all of our respondents agreed that the third-party AR software is able to deliver greater ROI than ERP native tools. And that perception is, again, backed by operational data. So finance teams using third-party software, again, for invoicing specifically, are 18% more likely to deliver invoices accurately and on time. So we're not just seeing a sort of preference for third-party AR software, but clear and measurable performance differences. And I think it's fairly clear that there's that direct association in the data that we have with stronger operational outcomes and faster cash flow. Again, Leanne, maybe you can expand on some of the benefits here that finance teams have experienced that you've spoken to.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think it's all about complementing the investment that a company makes in their ERP system. So ERPs are really good at being the system of record. They focus on the transactional process, really maintaining that general ledger and being that one source of truth for anything GL related. But there are a number of things that they don't necessarily focus on, and sometimes the data is scattered. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but the benefit that an accounts receivable solution has is it can be that layer across multiple systems, complementing your ERP. And if you have other key data sources, that's where a purpose-built AR solution can come in. So you can be more intelligent in what your customers are doing so that you can use that data or intelligence to your advantage. So you can automate things in the end-to-end process. And again, it's all about getting paid faster. Everybody's concerned about their cash flow or knowing when there's going to be a problem. Maybe there's something with one of your customers that's impacting their ability to pay. You don't want that signal to come in after the fact. So an AR solution can give you a heads up early. And I'll give you a tactical example. When I think about short pays, so a customer makes a payment and they don't pay the full amount on the invoice, an ERP will typically just take that, record it, and move it along. And it's probably going to go to collections, and somebody's going to have to start the dunning process. Whereas if you use an AR solution, the AR solution should be able to say, you know what, Fitzgerald Incorporated, you always tend to pay short because you're anticipating maybe some promoted discount, or you tend to debate us on freight charges. And I know that in your behavior, you've got a payment behavior that I can see. So instead of automatically just elongating the process, I know this is a short pay and I can jump on it accordingly. So that's just one example of where, like, tactically, the ERPs are great at being the system of record. We complement in a much bigger way, being that overlaid intelligence and handling those unique examples that are very specific to accounts receivable.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, I want to note that was just an example, Leanne.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, and yeah, again, that's highlighted in our data and the results that we've seen in our survey. In the next section, then we're just going to move on to look a bit more around some of the limitations, perhaps with the ERP system. So Leanne was just touching on that there. We're just going to explore that a bit further. So we talked in the first section about some of the pull factors, if you like, that are encouraging finance leaders to adopt third-party software. But here, what we found in our research was that there are also some limitations of ER systems that might be pushing organizations to also seek alternative solutions. So looking at a bit of background or context, the data shows that organizations that we spoke to are operating with an average of 3 ERP systems currently. And that alone introduces complexity into the AR environment. So multiple ERPs will often mean disparate data sources, separate workflows, and that reporting sort of sitting across multiple systems. So it makes it hard to have that end-to-end visibility in AR. And further to that, only 23% of those that we spoke to believe that all of their AR functions are supported by their ERP system. Quite a stark stat, I think, that less than a quarter believe that their ERP systems alone can support all of their AR functions. And so the fragmentation that we're seeing there can have a number of impacts, slowing invoice processing, cash application and reporting, not because the teams lack capability, but because the systems aren't unified. And I think this quote here from one of our respondents was quite a nice summary of the situation for a lot of the organizations that we spoke to. So they said sometimes all-in-one ERP systems lack reporting functionality or capability. And as a result, they spend a lot of time customizing stock reports to fill current data needs. Again, Leanne, any further insights or thoughts to share here?
To be honest, I thought 3 was low based on my experience. And I worked with one particular Fortune 100 company that had 30 different instances of SAP and dozens more ERPs because of growth. So it wasn't that they lacked an ERP strategy. They were highly acquisitive, growth oriented. And so they were picking kind of the right time of when do we consolidate. But, and it's not just an enterprise or big company problem. I was with a mid-market company a few weeks back, and we were talking about the fact that it was 4 dealerships that were coming together under one new parent company, 4 different ERP systems. And they were figuring out how to unify their processes, pick one as a go for it. The beautiful thing is with an AR solution, because we are ERP agnostic, when you move from one ERP system to another, you go through consolidation, maybe you're shifting to cloud. So even within an ERP company, maybe you're going from SAP's ECC to S4, or you are on Oracle and maybe you've outgrown an old solution and you're moving to Fusion. Like we don't care. We can handle it all. So the nice thing is your AR solution, again, it sits, as I mentioned before, it can be that intelligence layer that sits on top. So there's no breakage or delay when you migrate. But the idea of it being 3, I'm not surprised. And it's really, some of it is because they are growing fast and they acquired, they've merged. Or in some cases, I've worked with manufacturers that said, I'm going to use an enterprise ERP for corporate, and then I have a manufacturing plant in a country in Romania, and that's a different ERP because it seems to do well, maybe with some of the local requirements. So sometimes it's by strategy. It's just, this is reality. One ERP alone is pretty uncommon.
Sure. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's certainly reflected in the results that we saw from those teams that we spoke to. The other area that came through in terms of a limitation, perhaps, of ERP systems was around intelligence. So, firstly, 74% of those who took part in the research, so around about 3/4, felt their ERP system on its own lacked the automation capabilities needed by their team. So they might be providing the sort of basic processing capabilities, not having enough advancement to fully meet the team's AR needs. And I think that figure highlights the automation gap finance leaders are experiencing. So a clear need currently for more automation, more advanced AR processes. Right, and we can see that again from the data on this slide. So we asked the respondents a similar question, but more specifically around the limitations they faced with their ERP systems when using it for accounts receivable processes. And the data shows that ERP limitations in AR aren't just concentrated in one area, but are quite broad. So nearly half of respondents cite limited automation or AI capabilities, making it the most common constraint. But over 40% also highlight gaps in reporting and analytics, which suggests that many finance teams lack those advanced insights they need to proactively manage cash flow. And then integration challenges across multiple ERPs are another major issue, as we've just spoken about. So again, reinforcing how those fragmented environments restrict end-to-end visibility. And taken together, the findings suggest that while ERP systems are effective at processing transactions, they really weren't designed to support the more advanced, data-driven, automated AR processes that modern finance teams now require. And Leanne, perhaps you can speak a bit more to how AR is bridging the gap here.
Sure. I talked a bit about the short pay example a moment ago. There's a number of other scenarios where we help to bridge the gap. I would say in an ERP-only process, you may just have a list of collections activities. I have a list of customers that haven't paid the amount due. If I didn't have an intelligent AR solution, I may just order them based on aging and dollar value. Whereas a smart AR system can actually help you maximize your collections team's time. They can look at payment behavior and say, that particular customer, they, as much as you try and get them to pay early, they always pay on day 40. But they pay and they always pay. They're like a gold star customer. And so instead of spending your time there, maybe you talk to them about incentives to pay early, but you can work elsewhere in your list. There's probably a long list of collections customers that you're not getting to today. If you look at their payment behavior and instead of just working down the list in an age and size order, and you think about the best way to reach out to them, almost as if it's a CRM system, you use what you know about the customer to engage with them in that right way, you will get paid faster. So an AR solution should help you with information that says, this particular customer, they always pay on day 5 to 7 when you send them an email. So do that. Automate your system to do that. This other customer, they tend to need a phone call. They just always need that extra touch, and they're a white glove customer. Make sure you're calling them. And what day is the most responsive? So again, you should let your AR system do the work to learn about the customer and apply that to the process. And so I would also say that with an ERP, the ERP just takes the payment however the buyer wants to pay, but that's not always necessarily the preferred method that you have for your buyers. You can use your AR system to guide them. Maybe you offer payment terms or policies that reward when they pay in a certain way, a certain modality, or at a certain time. Whereas typically the ERPs just process the basics. An AR solution can really help what's best for you in terms of receiving the payment and when. So those are just a couple examples.
Great, thank you. So why then do we see people still using ERP alone? This is something that we've already touched on slightly earlier. Leanne was mentioning it when we introduced the stat earlier about an average of 3 ERP systems being used. But the data definitely supports what was being said there, that many ERP systems are inherited or legacy systems. So around half, 51%, told us that they continue to use their ERP for AR primarily out of convenience. So because it's already part of their existing software package. But at the same time, 68% agree that their current ERP system does not fully meet their team's needs for AR processes. And again, as we touched on, this speaks to the evolving AR requirements that extend beyond that core traditional transactional processing. And as our AR demands are increasing, particularly around areas such as automation, visibility, AI capabilities, the reliance on ERP, because it's already there, may become more challenging over time. And again, Leanne, I know this is something you spoke about a little bit earlier, but really interesting just if there are any other insights you have from the organizations that you've worked with in this area.
I think a number of the barriers really tied to resistance to change, and that you need that change leader. You need somebody to sponsor, and often you need to bring the team members with you so that they see the value. How some of these AR tooling, so the data shows it. The data shows that the company will improve its cash flow if it automates and gets more intelligent and predictive about what's happening with their customers and their cash flow. But you need your team members to buy into that change. I was at another customer's the other day, and we were shadowing the collections team. And we were hearing their thoughts on the solution. We were watching their process. I love learning hands-on from a customer and just seeing what they're doing with the product. And I noticed that one of the most senior collections team members, she wasn't using the solution they had purchased. And I asked her why, and I said, what could we do? And she said, oh, the product's fine. I just really prefer my spreadsheet. So she didn't want to change. And so that there's no solution that can kind of force that catalyst. You really need to get the employees on board and talk to them about the value of making the change. So I think that it's about, having the clear ROI, holding your vendor accountable for, if I go through the pain of change, is there a measurable return on investment? How do I measure that? How do I make sure it's worth making my team members change their process? It's got to be worth the pain. And then 2, finding a way to enable and reward your team when they do make the change. And they will see that they're going to do less mundane things. They're going to get to calling more of their customers. They're going to be doing less paperwork and process when they use the tools. Those are some of the things I would share, Tom.
Great, thank you. So we've seen some of the challenges of ERP-only systems and also the benefits of augmenting with third-party AR software. So it's perhaps unsurprising to see that a lot of finance leaders that we spoke to are looking to change. So half of the respondents in our research are planning to add and integrate new third-party AR solutions to their existing ERP systems over the next 12 months, so within the foreseeable future. And I think that just highlights how actively organizations are evaluating ways to enhance their AR capabilities. Mm-hmm. But it is worth noting that it's about augmentation, supplementation, rather than replacement. So the intention is to integrate alongside existing ERP systems rather than remove them or replace them completely. So important then that new systems are able to work alongside existing ones. And I think this the data we're showing on this slide really speaks to that sort of shift away from ERP only approaches towards more specialized AR support. Again, Leanne, I'm sure you'll have a lot of experience of working with organizations who have gone through this process, who have integrated ERP with third-party AR, and how they went about achieving that, and yeah, some of your experiences there.
I touched on it a bit earlier. The nice thing is with a good AR solution, you don't have to wait or do a change sequentially where first I'm going to upgrade my ERP, or I'm going to consolidate my ERPs, and then eventually I'll get to AR. Your AR solution can flex, and you can get started on getting that improved cash flow today while you do a consolidation, while you modernize your ERP system, et cetera, because it's all about complementing and extending the native capabilities that happen within the ERP. So that's probably the best thing is you don't have to wait to get started. And if it's a good accounts receivable solution, the time to value should be quick and clear, so that you're not burdening your IT teams at the same time. So again, we know IT resources are in short supply, and if you're doing a big ERP change, or they're spending a lot of time supporting the existing ERP solution, you need a great AR solution that doesn't have such a heavy burden on your IT team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we've seen throughout from the results of the research we've got, there is that noticeable ROI that's being seen from those organizations that have gone through this process. So the impact seems pretty obvious and immediate. Okay, in our final section, we want to have a bit more of a look at the role of AI and automation in supporting some of these processes. So what does the future look like? So earlier we saw that those organizations that have already made the jump to supplementing their ERP with third-party software are realizing clear benefits. But interestingly, when we asked a specific question around the top outcomes that they've noticed, the number one answer was around improved forecasting accuracy through AI-driven insights. So 61% of those who have gone through the process of augmenting an ERP system with third-party software noted the improved forecasting accuracy as a result of that. That was followed then by greater visibility into receivables, cash flow, and working capital, cited by 57%, and then 56% who have noted enhanced customer payment experiences through digital and self-service tools. And I think what's notable to me in these improvements is that they, again, extend beyond that operational efficiency. Rather, they reflect gains in predictive insight, financial transparency, and those customer-facing processes. And so, taken together, it suggests that augmenting ERP isn't just improving processes, but it's strengthening overall financial visibility and performance, and the sort of AI automation aspects key to being able to do that. What stands out to you from this data, Leanne?
I think you hit it in terms of it's really not limited to some of the core financials. The benefits are can help throughout throughout operations. One common example I see is if you can quickly see when a customer has paid and free up that credit so that your sales team can go and sell more to that customer, or that's a win. If you have better intelligence and connection and can see when a key customer has started to change their payment behavior. Maybe they were always ACH and suddenly they switched to card, or they used to pay on time, just like clockwork, and suddenly that's not the case. And you use that intelligence to, again, it's like you are really thinking about the customer in a much more intelligent way. You can reach out to that customer. Ask them if they've got challenges, if you can work with them. Again, you want to get paid faster, but you also want to take care of that relationship. So you using this data, it helps you maintain that customer, which we know how important it is to keep those good relationships. But also, if you can take payment faster, it helps your sales team go out and sell more. And also, if you see people that are always kind of bumping up to their top of their credit and they tend to always pay online, reconsider their credit. Maybe it's time to give them a higher credit line. And again, get that growth motion going for your customers. So all of this is ways in which the AR data or intelligence can allow you to treat your customers in a much more informed way. And it can turn into not only faster cash flow, but growth for you and your business.
Okay, before we talk a bit more about AI, we have another question for you. So time for another poll. And again, interesting to see how your responses match up with those we received from our survey. So this time, the question we asked of the finance leaders in our research was, how confident are you in AI's ability to manage AR processes effectively? Very confident, somewhat doubtful, or very doubtful. And it'd be great if you could give us your own level of confidence in AI's ability here. Again, we'll just give you a minute or so to fill out your response, and then we'll have a look at the results. Okay, just last few seconds. All right, hopefully everyone's had enough time to give us their thoughts. Leanne, what are we seeing from the results on this one?
We're waiting, we're watching.
Still coming in.
It looks like a mixture, but I think the winner, now look for the hosting team to share. It looks like, somewhat doubtful is the winner. So 45% somewhat doubtful, 36% somewhat confident, and then 18% leading in terms of AI support. So 18% is very confident, but somewhat doubtful. I would say that in reality is also what I'm seeing, Tom. I also see that there is a big gap between the economic buyer. So in the sales process, leadership and finance, there's so much pressure to AI. You need to adopt AI. And people are looking for ways because of pressure from management to leverage AI. And I think that they are sometimes buying solutions that are AI enabled, but they don't necessarily think about then how am I going to get the transformation underway? Who's going to own that? I talked about change management a moment ago. How am I going to help that frontline team member? So when people buy AR solutions, and it doesn't have to be accounts receivable, maybe they buy a piece of AI capability, and why doesn't it work? If there are times in which it's because no one truly drove adoption, and that should be in partnership with your vendor. Your vendor should be a partner and a consultant to give you tips for how do I get this transformation off the ground? Where do I even start? And I would also suggest don't just walk around with AI and say, where can I use AI and like it's a hammer? Look at your process, see where there are gaps holding you back. Again, what slows down DSO or days to pay? Where do you have heavy workforce demand, doing very manual process? Look at that and then say, could automation help? And could AI help? But I'm a big fan of focusing on the customer pain or problem. And then the answer might be AI. But you don't start with AI just looking for a place to hit it like a hammer and a nail. It's really focus on the problem and don't forget about the whole change and transformation as part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can imagine, AI is a very hot topic in a lot of the research, the work that we do. But interesting just to see those results come in here, and as you say, Leanne, perhaps not necessarily a surprise that some people have some question marks over AI's abilities currently, but depending on how that's managed. But interestingly, within our research, the levels of confidence were much higher. So the vast majority were falling into either A or B here. So either very confident or somewhat confident in AI's ability to manage those processes. So yeah, this is the stat sort of combining those top two scores, so very or somewhat confident, and actually 98% of the people in our survey felt that AI could manage AR processes effectively. And in terms of looking to the future, I suppose 95% reported that AI-powered reporting and analytics will be very or extremely important to their organization over the next 2 years. So perhaps they're thinking about AI's capabilities and how that might be able to impact things looking to the future. But it does suggest that the conversation at least has shifted from whether AI should be used in AR to how it can be used and embedded more strategically. And I think that the emphasis isn't only on automating tasks, but on using AI to improve forecasting, identify risks earlier, and ultimately support better decision making. We had quite a nice quote from one of our respondents that was typical of many that we had in the survey, and I think speaks to some of the benefits of using AI here. So AI can identify transaction patterns that are prone to disputes in advance, allowing us to intervene and resolve issues before they occur, fundamentally reducing the number of disputes. So certainly from our data, there's an indication that AI is increasingly viewed as something that's going to be central to the future in performance of AR functions. Again, spoke around it a little bit. during the poll results there, Leanne. But any other thoughts on use of AI in third-party software?
I think that AI is so prevalent, sometimes we don't even realize that we're using it. It's certainly been on our smartphones for a long time, and it will just be part of everyday process. You talked about shifting from automation, I would say going digital and automating process to then using AI to be much more intelligent. And I like this quote at the bottom. I think that's a good use case. You can identify certain behaviors. You could predict a dispute in advance. You could use AI in order to look at where you have missing remittance data and use that knowledge to understand how to apply a payment, as opposed to the hours and hours it might take a team member to research. So a lot of this comes back to, we all want to treat our customers really well and with care, but we don't necessarily have the staff, the workforce, to give every single customer unique attention. So you can use AI to be smarter and more caring in how you interact with customers. Whether you are seeing a change in payment behavior, you're seeing that data, like you can see it coming through and errors, and you know it's going to be disputed. Get ahead of that. And treat customers based on some of their patterns, or use the data to work with them to say, is it time to switch you to, say, a different method of payment, or to adjust your payment policy? But again, extending all of this to using the AI to be more prescriptive and specific, as opposed to treating everybody kind of like peanut butter style in your approach for either offering credit, applying cash, or managing the collection process. That doesn't show customers how much they matter to you. So use the AI to really be informed about your customers, and they'll respond. They'll appreciate the fact that you know them, and that you're a partner. I think that starts to wrap up, right? We're in the home stretch here, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's all we wanted to share from the data. Don't know if you want to just take a couple of minutes to just talk through some of those key takeaways again, Leanne, before we get into any questions.
Sounds good. And so we'll really break it down to what did you hear today on the webinar? I would say 3 main themes. So the first is, we're not looking or suggesting that you should replace your ERP. Your ERP is critical. It's your system of record. It's about looking for a modern AR solution that augments or really extends the capability of your ERP and can address some of the gaps. I've outlined a number of very specific examples today, but find a way to leverage AR to complement that ERP solution, and your cash flow will improve. And so next key takeaway. So how does cash flow improve? Well, it's because the AR solution is built for the whole credit to cash process. And it is something that you can use to complement whether you're going through an ERP upgrade or you're consolidating ERPs. Again, your AR solution can sit on top. It's that intelligence layer that can start giving you returns while you transform your ERP, if that's something that your company needs to do. And then I'd say the last thing on the list, we touched on this a bit, Tom, was, the first step was, let's go digital. Let's find a way to take and digitize as much as you can for your business. The next was automating. What's on the horizon? Predictive. You have to be much more predictive in accounts receivable, and that's going to be table stakes. So this is really where AI tooling can come in, so that not only are you kind of reporting the news on what's happening with your cash, kind of looking backwards, but understanding your customers, their behaviors, can start to predict disputes, predict cash flow, predict that a customer is having trouble and they may need your help, and they could be having issues that impact you. So again, getting much more predictive through all of this is these are the three big takeaways I would have.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think we're pretty good for time there, Leanne. We've got about 5 minutes left just for any questions that come in from the audience.
Yep. And we have had a number of questions that have surfaced. I've been answering a few as we go, and one of them is, can Billtrust create invoices from within? We'll follow up with you one-on-one, but yes, Billtrust can create that invoice and deliver it in a modality that you want or prefer, whether it is again, there are a handful of customers that are still doing print, but again, we obviously can take payment in any way. So we manage the full process. Tom, we've had a couple questions kind of seeded along the way. And one I want to call out in the little bit of time that we have left. I would say that I'm talking with customers that are holding back on AI. They're not bought in, and they're worried about it. Internally at Billtrust, we say when it comes to AI, I touched one piece, is start with the customer problem and then see if the solution's AI. Number two, we ask ourselves, would you bet your job on it? That AI has to be transparent, not a black box, a glass box approach. You should be able to audit what is the AI doing. And it should also let customers go as slow or as fast as they want. In some cases, customers would say, I trust you, just send that collections email. Others will say, no, why don't you draft the email? I want to review it to make sure I agree with your sentiment. And again, you can change the pace as you go. So your AI should be in a trust but verify kind of approach. And you should require your vendor to make sure that you can have that kind of confidence. And I think that will help you get over some of the hurdles related to AI adoption. Anything on your end, Tom, that we haven't touched on or that you want to call out before we wrap?
There was just one question in here around beyond faster cash collection, what operational benefits are there? A few different ones that we saw in the research. So I think earlier we showed the stat around finance teams who are using third-party AR software are 18% more likely to deliver invoices accurately and on time. But also that labor saving benefit. So nearly everyone that we spoke to, 98% of those finance leaders agreed that it saves significant time on AR processes each week. So less manual work, freeing up finance teams time. So yeah, the research certainly highlights multiple benefits in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'd say the last question to hit is, and this goes to multiple ERPs or multiple data sources. We have some companies that have, the survey said 3 ERPs, but we have companies that have many, many ERPs. And then sometimes they have spreadsheets or a data lake, a data strategy. We can connect to Snowflake. We can connect to where your data is. And we can interpret that file and work with you to map it, because we know the target system. We know to identify the data and the fields related to the accounts receivable process. So that's another nice thing, is not only can we handle multiple ERPs, but we are that kind of Swiss Army knife that can work with many tools, including wherever your data is stored. So that's all part of the process. And I would say with that, Tom, thank you, and thank you to the attendees. We love the Q&A from today. As I said at the top of the webinar, after today's session, we will be sending out to all of you the materials from today. Appreciated the Q&A during today's session. And with that, we can wrap. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Dan. Really enjoyed partnering with you.
Same here. Bye, Tom.
Yes. Take care. Bye-bye.